What is important about this community that kept you here or brought you here?
Yeah, I think it's really the small town atmosphere, which maybe sometimes gets a bad rap because, well, there's not much to do, Fulton, that kind of thing. But, you know, I'm a walker. I love to walk, and I feel so safe walking around my community. Even I'm an early morning walker, like so before daylight. I never worry. Um, there's probably some violence in the city, but not a lot,
Yeah.
and it's just a safe comfortable place. So I can live my life any way I want to here.
What do you do in this community?
Yep. Thank you. Well, so for many years I worked for the County of Oswego running Camp Hollis, which is a children's camp in Oswego. But about 5 years ago, I ended that job and I started my writing. I've always loved to write, but never did it as a career because I was busy with other things. But I knew I wanted to, so I am now a writer. I write books. I just finished a book about the blizzard of '66, which was a famous storm way before you guys were born, that devastated this area. And I interviewed about 200 people from Fulton and Oswego. What did they remember from that blizzard? So I write books like that. And then I also work with the library, the Fulton Library, on helping people write their memories of Fulton, always trying to focus on the positive things that have happened in our community.
Was there anybody that you felt had a positive influence on your life and that affected you in any positive way?
Yeah, what a great question that is. A lot of people really, my parents growing up, very strong work ethic. I've always had a job, no matter what kind, all my life. Several teachers, which we can get into specifics later. Um, well, my two uncles, I guess, were really strong role models for me. My uncles were muck farmers. I don't know if you know, or even the audience knows mucks. Muck farms are a very specific type of organic soil that only is around central New York area and a few other places in the world. So it's pretty unique. Well, they were muck farmers, and they made their life doing that kind of hard work. So they were really strong role models for me.
Right. What is your hope for the children of this community?
Well, I hope that they have the same opportunities that I had growing up, which is a safe place, um, welcoming, friendly, and then also that they can dream and be whoever they want to be, that they don't feel any limitations on their life. That's my hope for them.
Is there any wisdom that you would like to pass down to
Mm,
the children?
wow, to the children. Yeah, I think the most important thing you could do is to listen to others. I think we're all pretty good talkers, right? Like we all know we want to say things and we want to be listened to. But the way to really learn, and not just in school, but really with anybody, is to listen to them, ask them questions, get to know them. So I would say become a good listener. It certainly helped me in my work, like with my writing, right? Obviously, if I'm interviewing people, I want to be able to listen really well.
Yeah. Okay, you said that there was a teacher that had a positive influence on your life.
Mhm.
Do they know that they had a positive influence on you?
That's a great question. I don't think they do. It was kind of a simple thing. It was actually my English teacher in my senior year signed my yearbook that she liked the way I wrote. She thought that I was a good writer. And way back then, I didn't really believe that I could be a good writer, but I always saved that part of or I didn't save that part of my yearbook, but every once in a while I would always go back and look at it. It really made me feel good. And so even though I didn't become a professional writer till much later in my life, I always kind of remembered that she said that. So yeah, I don't think I ever told her, but what a nice thing that was to say to
Tell
me.
me about one of your favorite stories about this community that you heard while you were living here.
Okay. So the Depression, which happened in the late 1920s, early 1930s, the story was always that the Depression actually missed Fulton, that most of the rest of the country was devastated by this Depression. Businesses closed, people lost their livelihoods, people committed suicide because they had no way of living. And for some reason, it didn't hit Fulton. And I think that's kind of one of the really great things about Fulton is that there's a real strong rally to survive and beat the odds. And I've seen that a lot. I wasn't alive during the Depression, but since I've been alive, I can see where Fulton always tries to rally from some of the harder things that are happening. That story always impressed me, that of all the rest of the country, Fulton, it didn't hit Fulton as bad as it hit the rest of the country.
So what do you feel has changed most in that community? Is there anything that you miss?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think there are as many what I call healthy things for kids to do in this community. And part of that might come from my background because I ran a children's camp, and I think outside recreation, sports, play is really important in kids' development. And when I grew up, every park in the Fulton had a park attendant. This was in the summer. And you could go to the park and just hang out there all day, and they'd have activities and fun stuff like that to do. And now I don't see that anymore. And I think that's something that the city, and it's not just our city, I think it's happening all over the country, but here in Fulton, I would like to see that happen again, where the parks could host things, for kids, just something to do other than playing video games or hanging out at the house or something like that.
Yeah, we have quite a few parks in Fulton too.
Yeah,
we have
right.
A lot of them now.
Right, so there could be like little neighborhood parks, so you wouldn't have to go a long distance to get there. The other thing is there's no place to swim in Fulton anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah, so I mean that's like.
So if we were to bring a friend to this community, what would you want them to see? Like, what are some of the highlights around Fulton?
Right, yeah, good question. First of all, the lake. I think this is a beautiful lake, and I know that they're cleaning it up again so that maybe someday we can swim in that lake again. But just the beauty of that lake. Like, I heard this interesting thing that the Native Americans, this was a long time ago, they used to come to this lake for their relaxation isn't the right word, healing, meditation, well-being. Not Lake Ontario, not any of the Finger Lakes. They used to come to Lake Neanawana. Isn't that really cool? That Native Americans, who I believe had a very strong spiritual faith, right? Like that they were very solid people. They thought that this was a really special lake. So I would show a friend that lake. I would also show them, believe it or not, this library that we're in now, because it's really a majestic building, beautifully built. Actually, I would rock the bridges with them because I think it's really kind of neat to see like the center of Fulton in that way. And then the parks, I think the parks are really nice too. You know what search and rescue teams are, squads are? Well, did you know that in New York State, the very first search and rescue team started in Fulton?
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And now it's the most respected search and rescue team of all of New York State. So, like, why don't we hear about that? Because that's Fulton, right? That happened in Fulton, and it's the most respected of all of New York State.
Or what would you like to see 20 years from now in the city?
Well, I believe that a city becomes stronger by its young people. So I'd like to see more of a youth center-focused place. I know Oswego has a youth center. And I know there are places in Fulton that are trying to do youth center. But some of those, not that this is a negative thing, some are associated with churches or other organizations. So I'd like to see a youth center that was open to all youth, no restrictions, you're not attached to any certain type of group, where kids could just be doing healthy things, getting to know each other, getting to meet other positive adults. So like a youth center promoting good, healthy youth activities. I can't tell you how good it feels to have you guys doing this. Like when I went last June to watch that program at the high school that you did with Mrs. Christopher's class, that was so uplifting because you never hear about young people doing these sorts of things. And so for you to ask me, and not that you just ask me, it's not about me, it's about you doing this with anybody, that is so rewarding. Like, you guys really care about the city. It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear. Thank you for doing this. What always is the headline is negativity.
Yeah.
So I think we're raised in this culture where we focus on negativity all the time. And yet you and I, we all know that good things are happening all the time. So I have a friend of mine that we're walking buddies, and she and I always say, we're going to start a newspaper that's just good news, just because I think the more you talk about good, the more that good comes in. So, yeah, I don't know what I can tell you to help you at the school. I wish there was a way the school could focus more on positive things, because that would only feed on itself. You
Yeah.
know, to get better that way.
You said you've lived in this community pretty much your whole life. Has it always been the way it is?
I think the small town, the friendly, the safety, yes. The part that's changed, which you hear a lot about, is the industries closing,
Yeah.
the businesses. I mean, and that's just sort of, again, culturally, but I used to love being a kid going downtown Fulton. I could buy anything I wanted within a block.
Yeah.
And you just don't have that anymore because of malls and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. That loses some of its, that's different.
Yeah.
But as far as it being safe and friendly, no, it's always been that way.
Is there anything that's significant that happened to you, an event during your life that happened in Fulton that's made you who you are?
Yeah. So this is going to sound like a really small thing,
Yeah.
but it's sometimes the small things that make a difference. We used to have, I don't know if the schools do this, we used to have I think it was called a teacher turnaround day, where if you wanted to, you could shadow a teacher for the day. And you had to be up on your studies, and you had to be not in trouble, you know, that kind of thing. But I got to be the vice principal for the day, which was, I never had that aspiration or goal in my life of trying to be a vice principal, but what an eye-opener that was. So I think being a young person and having an adult show me what their life was like way before I would ever become an adult was so eye-opening to me. So I thought that was really a neat idea, and maybe something the schools might be willing to try to do again, or even, it's sort of like, have you ever heard of take your daughter to work day or take your son to work day? It's the same idea where you get to shadow an adult, and I learned a lot from that, kind of what goes into running a school, that kind of thing.
We've had career day at our school quite a bit, actually, where people from different careers would come in,
Yep.
and you'd sign up for a class that you want to learn about, and you'd go in and they'd tell you about their career, but you never get to. We've never had it hands-on.
And that's the
watching
key
them.
right there. I think we learn so much from hands-on, from doing. Any way that adults can help young people learn by doing is a good thing.